Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2020 Educators Ag Institute Virtual. This afternoon's session is Dairy Foods 101. We will be joined by Annie Miller later today in a couple minutes, but first we have some housekeeping. So your audio and video is off for the duration of the session, but we do have a little chat box that you can talk to the other attendees or the people behind the scenes. If you do want your message to go to the rest of the attendees, please make sure the "to" says attendees and panelists, please. And keep in mind it is public, so please be respectful. In the chat box right now, there's a little link to do the pretest, excuse me. If you haven't done the pretest, please take that. If you do both the pretest, the post-test, and attend a session, you get your name in our gift card giveaway, where you can get a $50 gift card to the American Farm Bureau Federation or National Ag in the Classroom online stores. And you can do that for each session to increase your chances. We also have a Q&A box, so if you have any questions for Annie throughout the presentation, please drop them in that little box. We would like to thank our sponsors that helped to make this presentation a success. And with that, we will move over to Annie Miller.
Hello, can you hear me? Fantastic. Okay, so we are going to talk about dairy foods today. Just tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a teacher with the mobile ag unit, so I'm very excited to be here today and talking to you. All right, we are going to move along. So you know where you are, Dairy Foods 101. So what are we going to learn today? We are going to explore the dairy and the I don't know what's happening. Hold on. Getting ahead of myself. I'm giving away all my secrets. Okay. I'm going to just hold on right here. Okay. We're going to start over. Forgive me. Okay. Okay. Technical difficulties. Okay, what are we going to learn today? We're going to explore the dairy industry versus the non-dairy industry. We're going to talk about the science in yogurt, the science in cheese, and then we're going to talk a little bit about how you can bring it back to your classrooms. So just who am I and why am I doing this? Because I am an educator. I have an MBA as well as an undergraduate degree in English. I love science though. Somehow I strayed from English into science in the last couple of years, especially in the food industry. So I've taught at Votech. I also teach here for the mobile ag unit. I also teach agriculture with the mobile ag. So they all kind of tie into dairy. I'm a mother. I have 3 daughters. I have a 20-year-old and I have 2 17-year-olds at home. We are experiencing what I can only call a vegan uprising. So my daughters have decided to become vegan. At first I was very opposed to this because it's just very difficult. And it started to raise some questions, you know, is being vegan more healthy? And is it actually, you know, are we financially able to be vegans? Because it certainly does not seem to be cheap. So again, some of the questions that have been coming up in our house is we have meat eaters and non-meat eaters and vegetarians and vegans. It's really been a struggle for me, and I've been asking a lot of questions that I'm going to explore with you today. I'm a consumer, so I eat food. You can't see me at all. My video's off. Okay, so I just heard that my video was off. So let's see, start video. How's that? Hi, everybody. Sorry. I'm really trying. So, okay, is that good? So I'm a consumer, so I eat food, I pay bills. So again, dairy is a big part of our budget, especially when my kids were little, not so much now. I also am concerned as a citizen. I know a lot of stuff that happened in the pandemic with the food chain. I think this is the first time that we as Americans experience some kind of, breakdown or loss of our food. My mother-in-law was in Florida, and when we finally got them back home, she said, "I want a steak." She had not been able to get meat for several weeks in Florida. Luckily, I have a local butcher that's within a couple blocks walking distance from my house. So I walked down to the butcher, I ordered some steaks, but that's because I knew the butcher who knew the farmer who got the meat to our tables. So a lot of things have come up, with people going to the store and there's kind of random outages of food, maybe because there was a factory that had to close down or some part of the process closing down. So again, that's another reason why this is really near and dear to my heart. I put a little, you already saw it, but I'm not a vegetarian because I love animals. I'm a vegetarian because I hate plants. And I thought that was funny because my kids are driving me crazy. But anyway, so let's move on. The first thing I want to do is dispel a few myths. One of the myths that seems to come up over and over again is that all dairy comes from factory farms. Another myth that I hear all the time is I only use organic products. So what does that mean? I hear dairy is bad because it's bad for the animals, or I hear dairy isn't healthy. So we're going to go through a little bit of process here and talk about some of these things. Again, as I told you, I have a business degree. I do teach ag, but I'm not an expert. So this has really been a journey of me trying to find out the answer to these questions. All right. So the myth that really has come to light for me in working here at the Farm Bureau is that it's all factory farms. That couldn't be further from the truth. In Pennsylvania, we have something like over 5,000 dairy farms owned by families, not by factories. And the more I looked, I just could not find where there are these massive dairy factory farms. Now, I know we have people from all over the country, and maybe there are massive dairy factory farms where you live, but that really isn't the case in Pennsylvania. About 90+% are family owned. So that's the first myth I'd like to dispel. Another myth that keeps coming up is organic. So my kids will say to me, I only eat organic. So I don't know what that means. What is it? I've heard that organic can mean that if you have a poultry farm and you open the door to the farm and you let fresh air in, that's organic. I don't know. But the actual definition of organic is here. So the USDA says that organic products are produced without the use of genetic engineering, irrigation, synthetic fertilizers, and sewage sludge. Additionally, organic foods must meet the rules and regulations of the Organic Food Production Act of 1990. So organic means pretty much that you're just using everything from nature. I still feel that the regulations are not here, that they're not enforced. If that's someone who puts organic on their produce or product, to me, I just feel like that's a marketing technique because the definition is widely overused. Another thing that comes up with milk is the antibiotics. I need antibiotic-free milk. Well, no milk contains antibiotics. And we have probably some dairy farmers here that will tell you that they test their milk, and the driver also tests milk. And if there's even a little smidge of antibiotics in there, the whole thing gets dumped, and nobody wants their milk to get dumped. A final issue that comes up when we're talking about this organic and antibiotics is hormones. Everything contains hormones. All cow milk is, whether it's organic or conventionally produced, has some hormones in it. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think there were some squawking earlier in the late 90s about hormones in milk producing poor effects in children, and there are no studies that really speak to that. So as far as I can find, that's just not an issue. Another issue that comes up all the time is they'll say it hurts the cows. So I have to say, I can't find anything either. There doesn't seem to be any information to me where it hurts the cows. So I'm going to go over to my friends. From the Center for Dairy Excellence. It actually is a relief to the cows to be milked. They look forward to it. They're milked a couple times a day, usually twice, sometimes 3. The milking only lasts 5 to 7 minutes. And in that time, you get about 80 pounds of milk. It doesn't seem to me that any dairy farmer that I have met that has a small, 40 to 100 heads of cows, that those cows are not happy. If any of you were on the trip this morning, a happy cow is a quiet cow. I know farmers who love their cows, I think sometimes more than their own families. Farmers will sleep with their cows, they'll stay up all night with a sick cow. I'm just not seeing evidence that any dairy production is harmful to our cows. I'm gonna go back. Okay. So how long have humans had dairy in their diet? We have evidence that dates back to about 8,000 BC, the use of milk in Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Asia. That could be goats or sheep or cows. The Bible talks about the land of milk and honey. So we know that there's milk been around since Bible times. The Torah has kosher laws, which talk about milk and meat and being placed together. So that's pretty good evidence to me that it's been around for longer than I have. The Quran also allows for consumption of milk, not alcohol. That's too bad, but that's what, you could have a nice chocolate milk, I guess. In the Buddhist and the Asian religions, it's a little more complicated. I do think because those climates tend to be a little bit warmer, they really don't have a lot of the ruminating animals that produce milk. And Vikings and Romans love their cheese. So that is telling me that, again, that dairy has been in the human diet for a very long time. I really do think, though, that it was accidentally discovered by a cat. This was actually put out by our church a couple months ago, and I don't know if you can see the cat over here dipping into the milk, but that's certainly what happens in my house. When my kids were little, they'd leave their cereal bowl out and I'd turn my back and the cat's in it. So I feel that it has certainly been around in our diet for a long time. I read a couple weeks ago that they thought that the death rate on the Mayflower was so high because they didn't have fresh milk. Christopher Columbus actually did bring cattle in. So again, we're talking about milk being around for a very long time. All right. I think we all know from some very successful marketing campaigns from the milk industry that milk is a nutritional powerhouse. It has about 8 grams of protein. It contains calcium for your bones and teeth that helps to maintain your muscle mass. The dairy is where most of the Americans get their calcium. Of course, you can get it from other sources, but it seems like milk is the easiest to get it from. It has potassium, yogurt, especially fluid milk and other beverages provide potassium, which we need in our diet. If any of you exercise a lot and you go to a race, that's why they hand you a banana, because you need to replace that protein that you just sweated off in your race. Vitamin D functions along with your calcium and phosphorus to help that be absorbed in your body. And milk products that are consumed that are low fat or fat free provide little or no fat. So the dairy group really is that group that provides all of these wonderful things, including potassium, zinc, magnesium, vitamins that we really don't typically get from other products. All right, I'm going to take a short video here. I think I just talked about the successful, you guys might remember Milk Does Body Good, or the Milk Mustache campaign. And I hope some of you have been able to see Hamilton this summer. So let me see if I can just share this here with you. Thought it was charming. Little commercial break.
Let's make that random call with today's $10,000 question. It's a tough one. Who shot Alexander Hamilton in that famous duel? All right, let's go to the phones and see who's out there. Hello, for $10,000, who shot... Excuse me? Hold on, Mr. Milk. Your time is almost up. I'm sorry. Maybe next time.
I thought that was cute. Anyways. All right, we're going to go back to...
My next guest is a talented actor.
Oh.
Just nominated for a Tony Award for his performance in Hamilton.
Okay. Bear with me. All right. All right, so I do have a question for you. Let me go to... What percentage of people get the RDA of dairy? I don't have a poll here, but you could just think in your head, is it 25%, 50%, 100%? Okay. It's a trick question. Because basically, nobody except for children age 1 to 3 gets enough of the recommended dairy in their diet. Nobody, especially us, you know, I'm not going to go over here to the 70 plus, but somewhere in this area, I am really far from the mark of hitting the amount of dairy. And our children 4 to 8, your elementary school students 9 to 13. I mean, it just continues to grow as we get older. So nobody gets their RDA of dairy. Some of the good sources of protein, just for example here, you can get tuna, which has, or any of your fishes, about 21 grams of protein. Turkey has 19, Greek yogurt has 17 grams of protein, and they're coming up with Greek yogurts that even have more. Cottage cheese, about 14 grams. Beans have 8 grams. A glass of milk, 1 cup, 8 ounces, has 8 grams of protein. Cooked pasta, 8. Nuts, around 7, and eggs, 6. And that just amazes me that milk has more protein than eggs. But to figure out what you need for protein, it's about 0.8 grams per body weight. So you take what you weigh and multiply it by 0.8. I'm not going to tell you what I weigh or what mine is, but I usually feel better if I can eat, you know, probably in somewhere around 40 grams of protein a day. I feel a lot less hungry. I've been on every diet in America, I tell you the truth, but around that amount of protein keeps me pretty satiated. So I would need, you know, a couple glasses of milk and some cheese or cottage cheese. I like Greek yogurt. All right. So this is another chart that just keeps hammering away. On the left of the chart is the intake below what we're supposed to have. On the right is intake above. We missed the mark on vegetables, fruit, grains, dairy, protein, and oil, but we make the mark on sugar, fats, and sodium. So I'm not sure there's a lot to be proud of on that chart, but that is where we are nutritionally as Americans. We don't get enough of the things we need, and we get a lot of the stuff that we don't need. So why milk? But before I go into that, I do want to give you just a brief history of the alternative beverages, because I don't know if you've seen the grocery store lately, but I just, for an example here, with my daughters trying to test out some different things, we have soy milk, oat milk, almond milk. What else do I have in here? I have a vanilla soy milk. I have another 60 calorie, that must be sugar added almond milk. So the stores are becoming increasingly full of things that say milk, but my question is, are they as nutritious as milk? And how did they get there? So we're gonna just do a little brief history of what I like to call the alternative beverages, because I really don't think they should be called milk. I think milk should be called milk. So these alternative beverages, although our shelves are just starting to fill up with them, they really have been around for a long time. Horchata, which is from Africa, made out of nuts, has been around since the year 1000. Milk has been used throughout the world to anything that has a milk-like substance to it. We have had almond milk and plant milk and soy milk since about the 4th century. Coconut milk, which is different than coconut water. I don't know why I didn't know that till recently, but that's true. I don't know what happened. I lost my screen. Okay. So plant milks have been around for a long time, basically. But where we're really seeing the growth is in the grocery store. Last year, we had about a 61% sales growth in these alternative beverages. When I went to the store a couple days ago, I had to look for milk, which was not front and center. And as you know, grocery stores, you pay for where your items are located. The milk was like down to the bottom or to the left. And in front of me was every other kind of alternative beverage that you could want to buy. So milk is losing space in the stores to these other things. So going back to the vegan uprising in my house, I wanted to really do a test because I wanted to see, is it worth it to buy these alternative beverages, or should I be really buying milk? And I had run a summer program with the summer food service program where you are required to feed milk to the children at breakfast and lunch. And at that time I was a vegetarian, and I did feel like I was pushing milk on the kids. I'm like, do you really have to have a glass of milk at breakfast and a glass of milk at lunch? And what was explained to me was that milk is a perfect food, that it has all the nutrients and protein they need to help them. And it's calorie replacement. So a lot of the kids that we served in the summer food program would be going to, the corner store and getting soda or something junky, and having a glass of milk was really replacing those calories. So in the back of my mind, I always remember that conversation that I wasn't really pushing milk, I was pushing protein and vitamins. So I said to my daughters that I'd like to do a little test, and I want to kind of see, if these alternative beverages are worth it, or is milk really the end all be all. So this was just based on some questions that my family and I had, and we all participated, and we drank a lot of different milks or beverages and put them in our coffee and our cereal. And so I'm just going to go through the process. We're going to talk a little bit about some of these things, and then I'll give you the results of our test. And I just want to say, I'm not a doctor. I'm not your doctor. I haven't ever played a doctor on TV, so I can't give you health advice. And certainly I am willing to learn. I know a lot of you out there are agricultural teachers, or you live on a farm, or you work on a farm, or you live next to a farm. There's something that comes up during this program or any part of the program, please let me know. I'm happy to learn. I always want to be a better student. And if there's something that needs to be corrected, let me know too, so I can pivot on that. Okay, so onward. So I use the scientific method. And if any of you have ever had one of our programs come out to you from the Pennsylvania Friends of Agriculture, we use the scientific method. So you ask questions, you do your research, you come up with a hypothesis, you do an experiment, you look at your data, and then you accept or reject the data. And this is a wonderful format, I think, for asking questions about anything. And we certainly should be applying this to the food and the marketing that we see coming up. So let me talk through. So the first group of milks that I want to talk about are just the nut beverages. So that's your almond. I think we have macadamia, walnut milk. Cashews are not officially nuts, but I think of them as a nut. So these are nut beverages. They have protein and fiber, but when you're making the milk, and if you've ever made milk at home, you put it in a blender with some water, and then you put it, on high, and then you have to take a nut bag and you put all that nut into the bags, and then you soak out the milk, and that's how you make nut milk. So really you're taking out all the fiber and the things that are beneficial and just getting sort of the essence of that. It has some beneficial fats, and it doesn't taste terrible. It was one of the ones that I kind of liked more in my coffee. But one of my daughters said, Mom, that really does take a lot of water when you're processing it. And I think it's about 1.1 gallons for every, I wrote it down there, 1.1 gallon for every almond. So again, and when I look at the almond ingredients, again, if there's something on here I don't know what it is, I probably shouldn't be eating it. So when you're processing something, you're adding a lot of bad stuff in there. Another type of milk that you might have heard about is soy milk. Soys are actually legumes, but they have a beneficial fats. They're grown pretty readily. Again, it's the same process where you're making, you're taking the essence of the soy out to make the soy milk. Another thing that you might have heard about, though, is that soy can be harmful to your health. So if this is something, soy milk is a milk that you would have and you eat a lot of tofu or you have edamame or a lot of soy in your diet, this is probably one that wouldn't be a good choice for you. Again, so if I look at my box, little Trader Joe's soy milk. This one has 90 calories. The first ingredient is water, the second is soybeans, and the third is sugar. So ethyl alcohol, is that what's in hand sanitizer? Anyways, so again, anything that's processed or coming out of one of these, to me, has some issues because there's stuff in there that I don't necessarily want to drink. Oat is the big one. Oat is the one that you are going to hear about in the next couple months. It has a good taste to it. Definitely has an oaty taste to it. It had a nice mouthfeel to me. It was certainly creamy. And we know oats have a lot of fiber, but again, you're making oat milk, so you're taking all the essence of that oat out. And to me, anytime you're doing that, I would just rather that you ate the whole food. There was something else I didn't know, is that it could actually not be gluten-free just because of where it's processed, and there could be some cross-contamination. So that's a drawback to me on oat milk. Pesticides, oat is one of those sort of things that does get treated with pesticides. So if you have allergies or it's an irritant to you, you definitely don't want to have oat milk in your diet. Coconut is the highest fat of all the milks that we tried. It was one of the ones that I liked best for cooking. But again, so you take the good part of the coconut, you're gonna grind it up, you're gonna put some water on it, you're gonna filter out the good parts are gonna be left in the blender, and you have a bag of, of oat milk, or where are we? Coconut milk. So again, each of these milks that are on the market, and I keep saying milk and I mean to say beverages, have drawbacks and benefits. The rice has been along for a long time. I remember seeing rice in food co-ops probably 30 some years ago. The problem with rice is it's a very high carbohydrate milk, and it also can have a tendency, rice can be arsenic, because this was applied to our crops in the early 70s, and there is a lot of it in the soil. So rice has a potential to be harmful in and of itself. So these milks go on and on and on. And when I went to Wegmans, we have a lovely Wegmans here in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. What did I say? I saw a quinoa pea milk made from pea protein, hemp. I saw a milk that was just called plant-based. There was flax milk and banana milk, which, you know, all the bananas I've been eating through the pandemic and making banana bread, I couldn't even stand probably the smell of that. But there was probably every single milk was in those 2 shelves at Wegmans, except for asparagus. There was no asparagus milk. All right, so the results of our test. So on the first line here, I have milk, and milk got the highest, started off with the highest score because I felt like all the other milks were trying to be milk. So we gave that the highest score for flavor. The price of milk is, compared to all these other milks, is low. I mean, what macadamia nut milk is $5 for a quart. So it would be about $20 for a gallon. Some of the soy milk and oat milks are coming down, but they're still, you know, about between $3 and $4 for a half gallon, which is what I pay about $4 for a gallon of milk. Local. So we gave a point if it was made locally. So if I could go out and I see soybeans growing on the field, then I know that that's made locally. That can be made locally. I don't know that it was, but I know that it can be. Health benefits, milk got the highest score because it has it's the most complete protein and nutrition. Processing, the higher the score, the less the processing. So milk is pretty minimally processed. It goes from your cow to the truck, hopefully into your grocery store. And availability, milk, the cow's milk, dairy milk is definitely available. So the highest score you could get was 13. So we all kind of rated the milks, beverages on those basis. And we came up with oat milk having the highest score because it is something that could be grown locally. I don't know that it is, but it definitely could be grown locally. It had a good taste to it. It seemed to be the least processed. The other milks, like any of the other milks. So the pea milk was thrown away. The hemp milk, I didn't even buy that one because I could, like, hemp is rope. I couldn't even do that one. The nut beverages are pretty good. I would have to say, personally, you know, the soy milk, I did see that for around $2.50 for a half gallon. So soy is something that can be grown locally. But I have to say, overall, dairy milk came in the highest for our family. And this is something I would encourage you to do, you know, on your own. Get a couple milks and give them a try out and see. Why do I keep saying that? See how they come out, the beverages. So, so in conclusion, we really felt that dairy products were the best because from a nutritional value, they just, nothing holds up to them. And it has a wonderful effect in our community. You know, we drive by cows every day. We drive by farmers that are, you know, taking care of those cows, providing jobs within our community. If you need to know, if you'd like to know where your milk comes from, there's actually a code. I don't know if you can see if I hold this up, but this is my Aldi's oat milk. There's a code. Can you see that? There's a code right along the top bar of that will tell you if it starts with a 42, you know it came from PA. You can easily look up the codes. I think I saw someone on here from Texas, so you definitely can look up the codes and see where your milk is coming from. Another thing we do hear about too is lactose. There are lactose-free dairy milks available, so you really can save too just by going with your local milks. When my daughters decided they were going to become vegans, I said, well, good thing your parents have decent jobs because I don't know how we will be able to afford to keep up. And really, when you look at all these beverages, when, you know, when I think and I look at the grocery store, that space really represents money. On July 14th, one of the private equity firms, Blackstone, started a round of bidding for about $200 million to be a part of the oat milk brand, Oatly. So that brand, the oat brand, that industry is valued, just that brand, at $2 billion. That's a lot of money to take out of Pennsylvania or out of our dairy farmers. So I would think, you know, you get to vote with your money, and if you buy Pennsylvania products, then you're putting your money back into your state and you're saying, we want more of this and we want less of other things. Just as a side note here, orange juice, you'll also see that taking up space next to dairy. To me, orange juices and any juices are really products that are over-processed. There's a book, What You Don't Know About Orange Juice, that'll talk about how they actually, when they process those oranges, it doesn't travel well, so they get stripped of everything, and then they get put into a container, and then they add in all the other things. So to me, that's just money that could be in your pocket, and you can get your vitamins and nutrients somewhere else. All right, so dairy, we're gonna move on to the next part of our program. So that was the sort of the dairy versus the non-dairy or alternate beverage market. Would this be a good place to, Cassidy, do you think are there any questions or?
If anyone has any questions, go ahead and put them in the Q&A box. So far, we didn't have any.
So far, is that good? Is that a good sign? So, all right, well, we'll answer those then as they come up. So we're moving on to, this is especially good for teachers or parents who are working from home and teaching from home, the dairy in STEM. Once we get the milk into these wonderful bottles, there are many, many, many wonderful things you can make out of milk. Of course, you can make yogurt, and you can make cheese, and you can make ice cream, and you can go to the Hershey spa, and you can get a milk bath. I mean, the uses go on and on, but it really is a good focus for STEM because it's acid and base, and that's what we use to manipulate the milk and to make it turn into these different things. When you make yogurt or cheese, you're introducing bacteria, and then you actually, you know, will ferment your product. So it's an excellent economical way to explore STEM. I think with children, they certainly get interested because it's a product they know. It's not hydrochloric acid, which, well, you shouldn't even have, but it's not something that's easily available or you easily recognize. So the first thing we're going to talk about is yogurt. And yogurt has been around for a long time. And the theory is that at some point they were using, you know, an animal udder to, you know, the enzymes in the stomach to store the milk, to carry it with them. And it actually kind of changed the milk, fermented it. And, you know, when you're out on that tundra and you have a sheep's stomach filled with milk and it ferments and you're starving, you're going to drink it. Well, they turned out that they actually did like it. So then they found processes to be able to make it. So the yogurt comes from the Greek word yogurmart. I don't know how to say that, sorry, which means to coagulate or curdle milk. And the FDA really defines yogurt that has the two bacterial strains, lactic acid, which is Lactose bacillus, and the Streptococcus thermalis, which is what we're going to introduce to make yogurt. The science of yogurt is pretty simple, and anyone can really make yogurt, but it starts as milk. And you can use the alternative beverages. They will be runny and thin, but there are even vegan starters. I don't know, but they are out there. So there are ways to make yogurt with the alternative beverages. You're going to heat that up. Then you're going to introduce your cultures to the milk. And you can do that by using a purchased culture, or you can just use like some yogurt that you bought already containing the bacteria. Then you're going to ferment it. And in that process, the bacteria eats the sugar and produces lactic acid, which gives it that really tart and tangy flavor. And I didn't actually know that yogurt had a tart or tangy flavor because I ate so much sugared yogurt in my early days until I made my own yogurt. I had no idea that it had a wonderful tangy flavor to it. And you can make it in any flavor you want. I've seen coffee, I've seen watermelon yogurt, so there are a lot of different flavors that can be added. So this past weekend, I made some yogurt at home. I thought it'd be easier for me to do a cheese demonstration and do the yogurt by pictures because it does take 8 to 10 hours. And I figure an hour with me is probably more than y'all want to spend, but oh, I lost my slide. Okay. And it really is easier than you think. Some ways to make yogurt, you can make it in the oven. A friend of mine makes it and sticks it in the oven with some kind of blanket around it. You can make it in your crock pot. I have been making yogurt for a long time. This is my old yogurt maker. I'm missing a cup. I don't know if you can see, but if any of you go to a yard sale or to Goodwill, you'll see a ton of these sitting around because in the 70s, this is what everybody used to make yogurt. You make it on the stove and then you put it into these cups, and I might take that to the Goodwill. I don't need it now because I have made yogurt in my Instapot, and I will never go back. It was such an easy process. What I used, I was actually out shopping over the weekend and I found a beautiful milk from Apple Valley Creamery, which is not, where do they come out of? East Berlin. This milk was so thick that it had a layer of cream on the top and I had to poke it with a stick and then we had to stir it, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful milk. I had a recipe that I had never used before, so of course I can't make the same thing twice. So this had sweetened condensed milk. So I had a can of sweetened condensed milk sitting around, and then I went and bought a plain yogurt starter. Oh, I need my notes, hold on. And I had to write this down because I never remember, but do you want pasteurized instead of sterilized or ultra pasteurized to start your yogurt? Okay. And really, if you can make bread, and even if you can't make bread, you can make yogurt. Everybody should make bread. It's like printing your own money. Okay. So to make it in the Instapot, if anyone has an Instapot at home, you probably have seen the yogurt button. You are going to boil the milk in the Instapot. And basically my Instapot, I just had to hit the button twice. It got to the yogurt. You can see that on there. And I had poured in my milk and I hit the yogurt button. And I think it was like 35 or 40 minutes to get it up to temperature. You do have to be careful, though. You want everything to be clean. And I am clean, but I'm not super fastidious. So the way that I clean my utensils before any canning that I do or when I make yogurt is I put it in the dishwasher. I put every, boost temperature, steam, hot, and I get it as hot as it can. And then when I take it out, I take it out without touching the actual inside of the pot. So that's how I clean it. I'm a little lazy, I guess, because I don't scrub it with hot water, but you do need to make sure that it's clean so you can scrub it with hot water. I happen to have a yogurt thermometer from my yogurt maker, but you can just use a regular thermometer. So you're gonna put that lovely milk into your Instapot and it's gonna come up to temp on the yogurt. You're gonna then let it cool. You'll let it cool to about 110, which if any of you are bread bakers, you know that that's the temperature that we like to get our water for our yeast. I took a cup out of the milk and I mixed in the starter. I added about a half of the can of the sweetened condensed milk and whisked that together in the Instapot. And then I set it to cook And I actually set it overnight, so it probably went about, you can go anywhere from 6 to 10 hours, depending on how thick you like your yogurt. We like a pretty thick yogurt, so I let it go overnight. And the longer you let it go, the better it is for your lactose-free people. And then in the morning, I scooped it into containers, and I have a very happy fridge. And I actually ate a huge bowl of it right out of the warm with some blueberries. And I had a couple canning jars I filled, and I had another quart container. And if you can see in the bottom right here, this is actually a Greek yogurt strainer. You don't have to have that. You can use a wire mesh strainer too, but I use that to strain the milk. And I also have Greek yogurt. I have been happy all week. Every morning I get up and I think, oh, I've got yogurt. It just really is a delightful flavor when you make it at home. And again, unprocessed, less expensive. I paid for a half gallon of milk. I paid 90 cents, I think, for starter yogurt. And the sweetened condensed milk I had sitting around, but I normally don't use that, and I don't know that you need to. But it certainly has sweet uses, you know, of course with fruit, but the real secret is using yogurt in your savory uses. So I will use it to marinate chicken. And here's a secret I'm going to tell you. Anytime, any recipe that calls for mayonnaise, my husband loves potato salad and he loves very mayonnaise rich foods. I use yogurt. So I don't think he's on the call, but I do use the yogurt all the time. So I'm not sure that this is something you can make in a classroom, just because you do have to keep your materials clean. You do have to make sure that, you know, you refrigerate it after it's done. Should you make this for yourself? Absolutely, no question. This is a wonderful investment in your time, and I think you will love it. All right, so we are going to watch what I like to call a Ched Talk. We're moving on to cheese. Did you get a Ched Talk? Did everybody Ched Talk? Okay. Cassidy, do we have any questions or anything you want to answer before I do that?
We do have one question.
Okay.
How long do you ferment the yogurt?
It was, you can go anywhere from 6 to 10 hours, and I went 12. So it's really, it's more of an art than a science. But it doesn't take, you know, I did mine overnight. So I got done probably, you know, around 9 o'clock, and I get up at 6. So that's how long mine went.
Great. And what do you use for your starter yogurt?
I used, you use plain yogurt. So you want something that doesn't have sugar in it, though I don't, you know, to be honest, if I was throwing sugar in it you probably could, but all the recipes tell you just to use yogurt that, you know, the plain yogurt that you can buy at the store, which is harder to find than you think. And I just mixed, I think it was like a tablespoon in. But you can also save some of your yogurt that'll become your starter for your next batch. And I think you can do that probably 3 or 4 times, and then the bacteria does start to weaken.
Very good.
That's it?
Yep,
Okay.
That's it for now.
All right, we're gonna watch this Ched Talk. I hope everybody got that joke. And I'm gonna get ready to do our cheese demonstration.
Drawing out the facts, the Naked Science Scrapbook. Hello and welcome to the Naked Science Scrapbook from the Naked Scientist. This time we're answering the question, how is cheese made? If, like me, you're a fan of cheese, you'll agree that there's almost no meal that it doesn't go well with. Perhaps for this reason, humans have been making cheese for thousands of years, and today there are hundreds of different types. But how is it made? Let's take cheddar as an example, which is a hard cheese originated cheddar in England at least 800 years ago, but is now made all over the world. The main ingredient for making cheese is milk. Most cheeses, including cheddar, this means cow's milk. Although goat, sheep, and even buffalo milk are used too. And we're talking a lot of milk here. 1 pint makes just 56 grams of cheddar, roughly the amount that you put in a generous sandwich. cheese making process starts off with a big vat of pasteurized whole milk. The first
All the way
stage
up,
is
you
called
can't hear me.
souring. A bacterial culture is added that feeds on the lactose
Is that going up? Or that was different?
sugar in the milk and converts it to lactic acid, making the milk sour. Different bacterial cultures give individual cheeses their unique characteristics. Swiss
Okay.
cheeses, for example, like Emmental, drawing out the facts, the Naked Science Scrapbook.
Folks, just so you know, I guess you couldn't hear what was being played, so we're going to start that over again. I apologize. If you want to go get a cup of coffee or yogurt, go ahead, but we'll go ahead and restart that video just so everyone can hear it.
Hello and welcome to the Naked Science Scrapbook from the Naked Scientist. This time we're answering the question, how is cheese made? If, like me, you're a fan of cheese, you'll agree that there's almost no meal that it doesn't go well with. Perhaps for this reason, humans have been making cheese for thousands of years, and today there are hundreds of different types. But how is it made? Let's take cheddar as an example, which is a hard cheese that originated in Cheddar in England at least 800 years ago, but is now made all over the world. The main ingredient for making cheese is milk. And for most cheeses, including cheddar, this means cow's milk, although goat, sheep, and even buffalo milk are used too. And we're talking a lot of milk here. 1 pint makes just 56 grams of cheddar, roughly the amount that you'd put in a generous sandwich. The cheese-making process starts off with a big vat of pasteurized whole milk. The first stage is called souring. A bacterial culture is added that feeds on the lactose sugar in the milk and converts it to lactic acid, making the milk sour. Different bacterial cultures give individual cheeses their unique characteristics. Swiss cheeses, for example, like Emmental, are full of holes because the bacteria added to those breathe out carbon dioxide gas that accumulates inside and creates the holes. Souring the milk helps with the next phase, coagulation. The soured milk is heated to around 30 degrees Celsius and an enzyme called rennet is stirred in. Rennet causes the proteins in the milk, called casinogens, to coagulate or clump together into a form called casein. This starts to separate out from the watery whey as solid curds. Rennet is actually obtained from the stomachs of calves. They use it to coagulate the milk from their mothers, and historians have suggested that early people may have stumbled on its action when they used calf stomachs to store milk. This would have split into curds and whey, explaining how cheese was first accidentally discovered, somewhere in Europe or the Middle East, up to 8,000 years ago. This means that cheese made using this traditional rennet isn't vegetarian. Fortunately, forms of rennet made from plants are now available, so cheese-loving veggies can still get their fix. Once the curds have set, they're cut into pieces using a set of wire knives resembling a rake. The smaller the pieces the curds are cut into, the more whey is released, which ends up producing a harder finished cheese like cheddar. After the curds have been cut into pieces, the heat is then turned up to 40 degrees and the curds are cooked. The whey is then drained off and the curds are cheddared, which involves stacking up blocks of curds to allow more whey to drain out. The curds are then milled into small pieces and mixed with salt, which plays an important role in determining the final flavour of the cheese. The mixture is now ready to be put into the moulds to be shaped into the finished cheese. Weights are applied to press the cheddar and drive out more water. If cheese isn't pressed, it'll have a more open, soft texture like the Italian cheese pecorino. After being pressed overnight, the cheese is turned out of the moulds and left until the surface dries out in a room kept at 15 degrees C. It's then kept in a cooled room at around 8 degrees C to mature, and it's during this phase that the flavours develop. These are produced by a combination of the bacterial culture added at the start, which continues to break down the proteins and sugars in the milk, and the humidity and temperature at which the cheese is matured. For cheddar, maturation takes around 3 months, but some cheeses are aged for much longer. So that's the basic cheese-making process. But what about blue cheeses like Stilton and Gorgonzola? How are they made? These cheeses contain characteristic blue veins, and both these and the strong smell and taste of the cheeses are produced by penicillium molds growing on and in the maturing cheese. These molds are actually close fungal relatives of the same mold used to make the antibiotic penicillin. But in the case of blue cheese, a species called Penicillium roqueforti, which was originally discovered in caves near Roquefort in France, or Penicillium glaucum are used. In Stilton, the penicillium mold is added right at the beginning of the process, alongside the starter culture of lactic acid producing bacteria. This means the mold is present throughout the cheese. The cheese making process continues as before, but this time the cheese isn't pressed. This allows plenty of air spaces to remain in the cheese to allow the mold to grow. After they've been aging for 6 weeks, holes are poked in the sides of the Stiltons using sterilized steel needles. This introduces extra air to keep the penicillium mold growing and helping to form the characteristic and strongly flavored blue veins. There are many more alterations and additions to the basic cheese-making process, as many as there are varieties of cheese. The type of milk, how the curds are cut, how much salt is added, where and how long the cheese is aged, all impact on flavor and texture. Some cheeses are covered in wax like Edam, or sprayed with a mold culture like Brie and Camembert, wrapped in nettle leaves like Cornish yog, or even bathed in alcohol, which gives the orange rind and pungent smell of époisse. P.U. Now, if you'll excuse me, all this talk of cheese has made me want to go and have some. That's it for this time. To get the answers to more science questions, join us online at thenakedscientist.com/scrapbook. Bye.
All right, that was a wonderful, hold on, I know. I hope you enjoyed your TED Talk there. TED Talk? Okay. So what we're gonna do now is I'm actually gonna do a little cheese demonstration. And I will also try to move through the rest of our program, try to get you out of here before, I think we have an hour and a half, but the cheese that I'm going to talk about right here is from a company called Caputo Brothers. They are darlings of this area. They are cheese makers and chefs and lovers of Italy. And they came in and they absolutely saved some neighboring dairy farms by using, you know, I'm sure everybody has heard that dairy farms are, family-owned dairy farms are having trouble these days, and who isn't, but there were some dairy farms that were having some difficulties selling their product, and Caputo Brothers came in and using their fresh mozzarella curd and their wonderful ricotta, they always say it regatta or some, I say ricotta, but they have beautiful, wonderful cheeses. And they were recently this summer on Good Morning America with their cheese stretching kits. So I am gonna do a little bit of a presentation. I hope I get this right here. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, I think, right? Okay, and then, okay, yep. Cassidy, can you see just the cheese demonstration, not the screen, right? We're good?
Yes, you're good.
Okay, very good. So the product that comes frozen, you can buy it at the store, but it comes frozen in a bag like this. And I'm gonna do just about half in case I make a mistake. But my husband told me to make sure I bring home the cheese. And I know you can't see my head, but I want you to really be able to focus on the product. So these are cheese curds. I'm gonna put them in a bowl. I'm gonna use some, hopefully not too hot water. This is live, children, so you know anything can happen. But I'm going to try to warm our cheese up very gently. So you can see I'm pouring along the side of the bowl. Okay, and I did thaw this out in the refrigerator this morning, so it should be warm. But you don't want to really like shock the cheese and put it into status. You want to be able to stretch it, and the stretching is the really fun part. This is something I definitely think that you could do with a class. I always love the idea of classroom gardens and having you know, a pizza party sometime during the year, but this is something that you could definitely do. So we're gonna try to just gently warm our cheese here, and I'm gonna put gloves on. I'm gonna just see if it feels pretty good to the touch. Of course, the water gets colder as it warms the cheese. So we're gonna warm our cheese up. Like that's pretty good. Now I'll show you how simple this is. So the next step is I'm gonna put it in this bowl just so you can see what happens to it. Normally you would kind of use the one mixing bowl and pour the water off, but I'll put it in here and it feels wonderful, and I'm trying not to drool, so hopefully you won't see any drool come in. And I'm gonna put some more warm water, and again, we're not pouring it right on the curds. We're just kind of, hopefully it's not too warm. Yeah, we're good. Should be just a little too warm to touch. Okay, I think that's good. You see it? We're all good? Okay, and then I'm gonna put just about a half tablespoon of salt or brine. You know, our tongues love salty foods. I can open it. And if you order these kits, I think if you order the kit with the class, it comes with pre-measured salt and 3 pounds of cheese. But you can also just order the cheese, and you should, because they have beer cheeses. They have wonderful cheeses. So I'm just gonna put some brine in here. All right, so we're gonna let that kind of warm up. And so you can already start to see that it's starting to become mozzarella. So the key with this is you wanna it's hot. You wanna put it in the water, and we're gonna stretch it like that. And you can get really fancy and make braided cheeses, but our family, we never seem to get there. So as it warms up, it actually becomes pretty like what you would see as a standard mozzarella ball. And so we're gonna keep it in the water, and you pull like this. And then you keep doing that until it stops breaking, and it becomes what we typically see. My husband will eat this with tomatoes and basil leaves all summer and be perfectly happy. For a guy that eats a steak, you know, like it's going out of style. But so you'll just keep doing that. You'll play with that, and you can start to see that it's coming together. And then they describe this process as like a tube sock, rolling up a tube sock. So you're going to kind of make it into a ball. But I can't see anything that's easier or more satisfactory. And if you can do this with your family, you get them involved in the process. And if you're buying this from Caputo Brothers or another, you know, if you live out of state and another local cheesemaker, you're supporting a local farm. Happy cows make happy cheese. So this is a delightful cheese. So that is how easy it is. I could see you doing that in a classroom where you would break that into, you'd take your pound bag and break it into, you know, smaller groups, and then everybody could have a turn stretching it, and then you throw it on your pizza and you're in heaven. All right, so I'm going to try to go back to the share screen. Stay with me. Okay, nope. Is that it? Okay, we're good. All right, so Caputo Brothers is our local success story. You can look at it's Caputo Brothers Creamery. There's a link, and I believe you get all the slides. Where I'm from, upstate New York, Chobani is a company that I pass when I go to visit my parents. It's another fabulous success story where Kraft was going to close a factory, and a gentleman came in and bought it and makes beautiful Greek yogurt. I think it's interesting they don't make any low-fat yogurts, or they have yogurts with very limited sugar. They gave 10% stake to the factory workers. So it's a company that, again, saved a community by coming in and making delicious yogurt. So to me, it's a win-win. My boss, Charlene, who some of you know, was telling me about the Culkins Creamery, which just looks like a delightful company. They have the names of all their cows up on the website. That is another local success story where someone came in, used the local farms, and made beautiful cheeses. And even though I told our intern, Nicole, I wasn't going to put Penn State in, I am putting Penn State in. Penn State Creamery is a marvelous success story. And I heard a little vignette that Ben and Jerry's went to the Penn State Creamery, and it does seem to be true. In 1975, they took a $5 correspondence course and learned how to make ice cream. And you know the story from there out. So again, these are people making products with local dairy cows. You can Google 100. I saw this with cute little family, and I know the picture's blurry because it came from my Instagram, and I don't know how to get all that stuff. But this family does everything right. They use a digester for the fertilization. They have solar power to heat the water. Again, just going back to dairy farmers are people that love their cows. They love their land. They're producing something that they want you to love, that is nutritious and economical. So again, singing the praises of dairy. And remember, I was not paid to do this. So this is something that I really do believe in. Just as far as bringing this back to the classroom, if you get the chance to have our lab come out, and hopefully we'll be able to come out as soon as we're able, we do a class, glue to milk, where your students are actually doing scientific experiments. They'll take milk and they will turn it into glue, and then they'll compare it to Elmer's glue. So it's a very cool little program that the kids, every time you do that, it's quiet because you can hear the kids thinking, and they start to think, well, what else can I do with this, or what else should I be testing? A super fun one that I like is cream to butter. They're going to use I think it's buttermilk. We use cow's milk and is a cream to make butter. And the kids, again, that's one where you can really see the light bulbs start to pop off. And all our classes are wonderful, but this is Dairy 101. So those are the classes. Okay. We have, a ton of wonderful resources in Pennsylvania. I have the pleasure of working with 2 dairy princesses. They will come to your classroom and they will read, or they will teach you about dairy. We have a great option at the farm show called the Cabin Corner, although that's seeing the sausage being made or the calf being made. So that I would say is more for your high school students, but if you get to take a chance and go to the farm show, the Cabin Corner is a wonderful resource. She's up all year. She has a great Instagram and Facebook and information. FFA, if your school has an FFA, those kids are delightful to come in and talk to your students or to help out at an event. We have the Center for Dairy Excellence programs. I'm going to talk about those in just a second. But 2 fantastic options for you at the Center of Dairy Excellence. Giant Foods is a great resource. I don't know about other grocery stores in Pennsylvania, but Giant Foods has a nutrition program. They will do a dairy tour for you. I'm sure they're working on virtual options, but you can also call a nutritionist. The American Dairy Association Northeast or other American Dairy associations for your area. I had a dairy farmer come out and speak to my VOTEC students about dairy, and then I turned it into a literary project where they had to write thank you letters, and we looked at the spelling and the grammar, and we made sure, that our farmer could read the letters, but the students were enthralled when she came and spoke to us. Penn State Extension, they have wonderful nutrition programs. They do a lot. If you're already in the dairy industry, you probably work with them, but they do a lot to support dairy farmers, but they also will come out and they will do a demo. They came to my summer camp, and I had never thought to put nectarines on my yogurt. And the lady sliced up a nectarine, and I don't even think I ate one because I don't like peaches, but she put the nectarines on and they were delicious. So I learned something. That they provided all the materials for the camp. And so that's another wonderful resource. All right, so The Center for Dairy Excellence has an Adopt a Cow program. Let me see, I'm going to get to their materials. They're separate. But that deadline is to start to register, not deadline, but the beginning of registration is August 1st. Let's see if I can bring up their stuff. This program, this is cool because they have been doing cyber or virtual or e-learning or whatever you want to do it. They've been doing this since it wasn't cool, you know, since we didn't have to do it. So I would say this is a vetted, wonderful program. You sign up for your classroom and then you adopt a cow, and then you get monthly updates. You can write cows letters. I mean, to me, if I had an elementary school class, I would be first and foremost on this program. And I think Charlene was telling me that, you know, when we all had to come home in March from our schools, this is something that could still continue because they had the program in place. The kids were invested in the cows. So again, I really sing the praises of this program. I feel it's excellent. There are other adopt a cow programs in different states. So they also have wonderful lessons throughout the whole education breadth. So they have stuff for your 6th and 8th graders that talk about animal health, that talk about, you know, food safety, talks about how the jobs in the communities. You can do virtual farm tours with them. You can do actual farm field trips with them. But I don't think we're going to be there anytime that soon, but it is an option if you're planning later on. So the Center for Dairy Excellence, I cannot sing their praises high enough. As of course, Pennsylvania Friends of Agriculture are #1, but they're definitely in there as far as dairy education. Okay, oh, we don't want that. Okay. So those are just some options. And I think Cassidy will be providing this presentation and we'll provide a list of resources to you. I do want to talk a little bit about the fall because I think that weighs heavy on everybody's mind. We don't know what's going to happen in the fall. Every school seems to have a different plan. Some parents are going to keep their kids at home and cyber school them. Some kids are going to go to school and it might be 2 days a week. We don't have a full idea what it's going to look like, but it's not going to look like typical school, and lunch isn't either. So I just gave some thoughts, some research to what it could look like in the fall. We will probably be eating in the classrooms with the students because it seems to be some kind of idea that will create bubbles so that we know where our kids were and who they were in contact with. So you could be eating in the classroom, or someone comes in and supervises, or you know, hopefully, I'd love it if everybody could do everything outside because I feel like outside is safe, but eating in the classroom is probably going to be happening. And that brings up a lot of issues, as you know. Food security, we'll talk about that in just a second, but you know, etiquette, how are we going to do this? It's just something that's going to happen. There'll definitely be more grab and go. So I'm thinking there's going to be a lot less of the hot items and more bagged items. So again, that container of milk is going to be something that's going to get the nutrients and protein into our students. Did I lose my, oh, I lost my connection. That's bad. Okay, we back on? Okay, we're good. I just got a message from one of the schools that I work with that we're not going to have access to water fountains. So they wanted us to be sure to purchase a water bottle ahead. And we're definitely going to see more food insecurity. We know that the food lines are long. That people have lost their jobs. So there is going to be some students who maybe haven't been experiencing food insecurity, experiencing it. And even I am a little insecure at times right now because I'll see, you know, eggs at the store and think, should I get 2 dozen? Because I don't know if there are going to be eggs there next week. So a lot of those issues. I love this little blurb on the side because I was at fault, I think, for thinking that I packed wonderful lunches for my kids that were so nutritious, that just because your coffee is $7 and your fresh pressed veggie juice is $15, it doesn't make them complete meals. You know, I packed all this stuff for my kids and they would eat none of it. They'd come up with a smashed sandwich at home and, you know, the fruit with one bite taken out of it. So I think it's really important to remember as educators that everybody's trying, and that sometimes, you know, you get it, what's in your lunch is what's left over in the house. We're going to have to meet our students where there are. So there's going to be food access issues, food insecurity. You know, 6 million people enrolled in food stamps so far in the first 3 months of the pandemic. And what I've seen personally is that some of these families are middle-class families. Like my husband's secretary hasn't been back to work in March. She may not be going back as they evaluate, soundly in the middle class. What are they going to do? You know, we don't know. So there are people that are going to experience some job loss because we found out maybe you don't need a secretary, or maybe I don't need a middle manager. And the jobs that we do need are actually, you know, garbage collector or grocery store worker, something like that. And it's going to be important to remember that. I'll leave this slide, but I mean, again, it's just preaching to the choir. You know, the food insecure houses don't get the nutrition that they need. So going back to milk, you know, if I know that one of my students can drink their milk and I can gently encourage them to drink their milk, that's going to give them some nutrients that maybe they're not getting at home. I think things are going to get weird. I wish I had a roadmap for everybody to tell you what the fall is going to look like. This was this little blurb on the left-hand side. One of our kindergarten ready programs put it on Facebook. You know, that we're going to have to make sure that the kids' luncheons, that they can open them, because you don't want me to put my hands on it and open it. And somebody commented on Facebook and said, oh, you've got to be kidding me. Kids can't open bottles. And I was looking at the Gatorade going, I can't open a Gatorade bottle and I'm 50 years old. You know, like, these are just questions that are going to come up over and over again. Who do I eat with? Who do I look at? How do I get my food? I don't have the answers for you, but it's certainly questions to be asked. Things are going to get weird, but I do feel that we are going to be okay. You know, it's temporary. We will get through this next, you know, couple months, and we will all figure it out, because most of the people that I know are good people coming from good places trying their best. All right, so just some strategies. I'm sure you've already, I thought this was darling. These are CD cases and they put seeds in them. As a kid, one of my favorite memories was putting the marigold seed in a cup and bringing that home to my mom, and I just thought, that was the bomb.com. But tap into your local educators. Don't be afraid to ask for help. You can shape people's views, you know, gently through some STEM experiments, so where you make them think, oh, you know, I need to eat this because it has fiber in it, or you know, I need to have my protein in the milk. Those STEMmy things versus saying your lunch is unhealthy or you shouldn't be eating that. Reading menu labels. Get high school students to digest menu labels, and we have a couple lessons at the Farm Bureau too that do that. They will learn. You might have to do it 10 times, but they will pick it up. Outreach, there's so many organizations that want to help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And again, I'm an advocate of school gardens, of cooking with your classes, although that's probably something you won't be able to do right away. But anytime that you come together as a community and you work on it, there's a couple of kids that maybe don't have a garden, that when they see things growing, you've lit a fire in them. And again, gardening and baking, that's printing your own money. Just for the people that get the cards, or if you have resources, the AG Classroom has so many options. I love, they have a biotech cheese one. So for your middle school students, if you have access to a science lab, I think it was relatively inexpensive, and you get 2 different types of rennet. One is organic, one is not, and you can do the experiment. I mean, what fun would that be? Tons of resources on AG Classrooms. If you get the $50 money, and I hope you all get it, the American Farm Bureau has lovely, lovely resources. I love, well, how did that get in my lunchbox? There's posters and cards and a whole learning series. So that might be something that you want to include. I also found these books from the Feeding Mind Press, which is I think it's the American Agricultural Foundation, but these are free. So if you didn't get the money, here's an option. You could print these off. They talk about animal hubs. I can't say it. Animal hubs. Animal care. They talk about animal care. They talk about growing. There's definitely, I just thought they were just even so diverse. Like you got a kid in a wheelchair, and you got every, shape and size on here. So I just thought they were a wonderful, lovely resource. They have coloring pages you can print off. So I have a list of resources that will be at the end. So if you want to click on any of these, and I have anywhere along, if you take the presentation, there are links, if you want to show the kids the Hamilton vignette, that you have those options there. So I don't know if I talked too fast or too much, but are there any more questions? Or
Do we have any questions? You can go ahead and put them in the chat box or the Q&A.
if we don't, that's okay.
All right. It doesn't look like it.
Okay, I must have done a really good job.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Annie.
You are welcome.
As Annie said, we will be sending out oh, we may have.
Maybe.
Can you put slide 47 up, actually? Okay, so that's the one with the how did that get in my lunchbox?
That is darling, and that's just the poster, but there are several other resources with that. So I would definitely explore that one.
And we also have another one. What are your thoughts on full fat versus low fat milk and
Oh, I'm so
schools?
glad someone asked that. I lost 10 pounds since the beginning of the pandemic. And I have been, I think I said, I've been on every diet. I have done Weight Watchers. I have done South Beach. I have done, what's the one where you eat all meat? Keto. But I gave that all up, and I started to just eat, I use the whole fat milk. I am not hungry when I eat this stuff, and it satiates me. So I feel really good. Now, my cholesterol is low, but again, I think I said I'm not a doctor, but I just feel better when I eat full fat products. And you're going to make a better yogurt with the full fat, but it's been mind blowing to me because I have spent my life, in the quest of losing these 10 pounds. And it was really, giving up the diet culture and eating full fat products that I could use 20 more, but 10 pounds in the last 14 weeks. And really just from using full fat products and maybe, a little less stress, but that's how I feel.
Very good. It looks like that might be all of our questions. Tomorrow, you all will get an email that has the links to the resources folder, and that does have Annie's presentation along with some other resources that you can use.
And the Center for Dairy Excellence materials are in there fully, right? I just touched on them, but they'll be attached as well, and they're wonderful. So
yes, they will definitely be included.
Okay.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Annie.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
And thank you.
Take care.
Don't forget to take your post surveys and be entered to win those gift cards and get some of the resources. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.